1:06. Incidentally, Lancashire, it's said, may well run a 5,000 at the beginning of this season. It doesn't want to go to the cross country. This is probably it for him, using it as a strength basis and an endurance basis. Wants to run a 5, but then he'll concentrate on the 1,500 metres, and he's got to get close to 3:30 and do it consistently, and do it within the context of a championship, which will give him some sort of chance of getting through the qualifying rounds in the World Championships in Korea later on this year.
Well, he certainly had the sort of winter that could set him up for a personal best and record-breaking summer. But the key, as we've seen coming into these championships, is avoiding injury. The bearded figure, just back in about 8th or 9th, is another former winner, Ben Node, in the black vest of Avon and Somerset. And once again, just look at the number of singleton vests. They've come from all parts of the country. We've got Scotland represented, we've got the Midlands, we've got the South, the Southwest. Great coaching stories that have brought these athletes to this kind of peak of consistency, with a shot of winning. Who knows? That's Vernon's only token bit of mud that he's going to get. So for somebody that had 7.5 miles of it, he's only going to get 7.5 yards of it. Vernon going well. Ryan McLeod closest to us. Derek Hawkins for Scotland West, and Tom Humphries just holding the inside line, another former winner in the green of Staffordshire.
Give a mention to a fella that may not be there towards the end, James Wilkinson of Yorkshire, winning 4:8.29 up on the far side, just behind Skinner. Tweldy is still there. Steve Vernon in the orange strip there. This is Humphries. Now, I was talking to Spencer Barden earlier, and I said, you know, what form do you reckon he's in? And really, he's an unknown quantity at the moment. He's not quite sure what sort of form he's in, but there he is in the green vest, 4:7.10. Winner, as I said, in 2008. He got away from the field early on, and I tell you what, he dominated it. He won the National that year, just to repeat that piece of information, and the Inter-Counties. And he's next to Ryan McLeod.
We should just mention that Mo Farah, who's in action at the European Indoors, has no wish to be considered for the World Cross Country, and neither Chris Thompson, who's going through a block of training in Australia and then the USA, ready for the summer. And they, having picked up medals on the track, have every right to focus on long-term objectives. But it will mean an unusual looking team, potentially, of athletes that are perhaps debutantes, perhaps only with one junior championship under their belts, that will represent Great Britain in Punta Umbria.
Derek Hawkins, light blue. Let's remind you, the Scottish champion from Scotland West under 23. Humphries in the green, Ryan McLeod in the yellow and blue, then Skinner behind him, Steve Vernon behind him, and Andy Vernon tucked in, not showing much, that white vest of Hampshire with a green vertical stripe. This is looking good. I like the way this race is developing. All the principles are there or thereabouts, and they know what's on offer. This really is a British Championship. Lancashire's dropped back a little bit. Tom Lancashire has dropped back a fair bit, actually. He's got about 10th place, probably a little bit further back than that. That's Nick Gulab, isn't it? 4:8.35.
Well, Gulab would be the last number on our list. That's because he was only confirmed during the week. Coached by Steve Sharp, former junior star. That's him in the red vest just on the right-hand side of the shot.
Birmingham University won the Universities and Colleges Cross-Country Championship just recently. He's 5th in the Liverpool McCain Challenge. That was the European Trials, of course. Went to Portugal, was 25th in those championships. But Ryan McLeod has really taken this on. He's making a serious effort here, but look at them all surrounding. They're all tagged on. Andy Vernon on the right still. And with 17 minutes gone, we're not even halfway yet.
And I think the team competition with 6 to score is absolutely wide open. You've got to go back to somewhere around the 60s to get even the winning team's final scorers, and there's nobody packing that many runners in the first couple of dozen. So I think it's wide open. North East Counties going well. Avon and Somerset have got 2 or 3 up there. The question will be whether they've got 6 ahead of anybody else. Hampshire and Surrey, who've had a great day, also going well. Scotland West and Yorkshire, again, have got 3 or 4, but it will come down to Mr. 5 and Mr. 6, who will close the team competition.
Humphries leads, Skinner alongside him. Ryan McLeod has dropped back into third. Hawkins is fourth. Just looking at Gulab is there. Andy Vernon is there. There's a little group just breaking away. Steve Vernon on the back of that. There looks to be a little bit of a gap opening up. Stretching them out. Let's say that. It's stretching out a little bit.
My feeling watching this on the strength of how Mo Farah ran it last year is that just about on the second lap he'd cut loose and he was absolutely powering around this course, and I'm not seeing the same sort of race. I think you're right, it's tactical and there's people keeping an eye on each other and watching out for who might make the team, but you have to think, is this going to be a team that's going to frighten off the Americans, you know, the non-African teams, and get something out of a World Cross? I think they need to get the pot boiling just a little bit more over the second half of this race.
I think you're right. I mean, the World Cross for the last few seasons now has been dominated by Africa, and the first Europeans are cropping up at around about 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th place, and it's tough, but there has to be a belief going into those races, and that is difficult to achieve, of course.
Well, Tom Lancashire's struggling now. You can see him back there in about 15th place, and I was also looking at Steve Vernon just drifting back in that group. I think the situation that Steve has is that he has a hamstring niggle that's almost semi-permanent, and on very soft yielding surfaces and on hills seemingly it doesn't get aggravated. It's when the underfoot conditions are firm that he starts to twang a little bit, and that's what he feared here. You can see it's actually turned fairly glutinous over the course of the 9 previous races. Lancashire needs to stick with it if Greater Manchester are to have any prospect in the team competition. Look at those black vests of Avon and Somerset with the red piping around the shoulders.
That was Tweldy going through as well. Incidentally, you're making a comment about the teams. The 9 to score last year, Lancashire from Kent, from Cumbria actually, but when it came to 6 to score, Lancashire still were the champions, followed by Yorkshire and Kent in third. So Kent dropped 1 place when they went to 6 to score. So, but we've got away here now with 6 athletes away. Ryan McLeod, Humphries is there, Skinner is there, so is James Wilkinson there. Derek Hawkins is there, and Andy Vernon and Steve Vernon now about 10 or 12 metres off the back, just ahead of Nick Gulab.
Well, Derek Hawkins is the youngest. I think Wilkinson is only early 20s. The others have been round the block a few times, and it's good to see Humphries back and confident enough to give this a good shake, because he was an outstanding star, as you mentioned, Stuart, 3 or 4 years ago, and then he's had a injury wilderness period of 2 or 3 years, and this would certainly give him confidence to start resurrecting his career and maybe do stuff on the track as well.
Yeah, he was 9th last year, incidentally, in this. He didn't compete in the Nationals recently. He saved himself for this, and obviously as the rest go through, it's clear that that gap is really... There's Lancashire coming through, so he's finding it very difficult indeed to cope with just that subtle increase of pace. And look at this, Humphries has gone away, McLeod in 2nd place, Andy Vernon now in 3rd, looking a little bit more like it. In 4th place is Skinner, 2nd placer in the English National Championship. And behind him is the Derek Hawkins of the Scotland West, who's now in 5th place, just ahead of James Wilkinson of Yorkshire, who was finding the going a little bit tough now. They're well over halfway now in this race, I would think. And Humphries and Vernon, the race now beginning to develop. It certainly is.
Well, I think it'll be a different kind of a race if Andy Vernon manages to stay in contention, because the mindset will be for Humphries, I need to get away, I need to open up a gap, I need to have a cushion, and Vernon will be thinking, I've got the pace, I can win this on a sprint finish, I need to hang on. So this is going to be a crucial uphill drag for the penultimate time, I think it is, Stuart. And I think Humphries will be looking to come off the top of the hill with a little bit of daylight, and Vernon will just be looking to tuck in and hope to use that fantastic track speed which we've seen. But of course Ryan McLeod has run a 7:54 3,000 metres in the last fortnight, so not short of pace himself, nor too is Mike Skinner, who's back there in 4th for Kent.
Yeah, Mick Skinner, Blackheath and Bromley Harrier, 4th last year in this Inter-Counties. He got a 17th place in the Liverpool McCain Challenge, 8th in the Antrim Challenge. It was 65th in the World Championship, and that actually does put it into perspective, doesn't it? What sort of challenge is going to confront them in the World Championships, which is a very flat course. It's a fast course. It's a typical World Championship course, really. in Europe, in Spain. But I have to say that Tom Humphries looks as though he saved himself, didn't do the national, saved himself, and has the confidence to take this on. Andy Vernon now looks a little better. He looks a little more with it.
Yeah.
And Ryan McLeod in third, and Skinner in fourth place. So it's beginning to develop quite nicely. But we're down to 4, and obviously I think the winner's going to come from these 4.
Yeah, if you looked at that group, you would say that he's made no impact at all. But if you look back at what he's done to Wilkinson and Derek Hawkins, he has opened up a massive margin for these leading 4 in the space of about 800 metres. And he's very comfortable uphill as well. I think if it's a little bit of a devil take the hindmost, you'd look at Mike Skinner at the moment and ask a question mark, because he's weaving and trying to find the firm line. But it's just very slightly coming to the boil, as we suggested it would need to. But if you're a World Cross selector, do you look beyond these 4?
4 kilometres to go, 8 gone. Mike Skinner went to Spain, actually. Interesting. Oh, that's Andy Vernon in the centre of your shot. And in the blue strip is Skinner. Skinner went to Spain, actually, and raced in Spain in January.
Yeah.
Probably got a look at the course itself, or the type of course that would be confronted there. And this may well be just slightly different. You can see they're having to dig in a little bit. The undulations, the rhythm sapping effect of this very good course. It's an excellent course, it really is.
Well, if you were looking at this race maybe 5 or 10 years ago, you'd probably be looking at 4 full-time athletes at the head of this field. But as it is, I think certainly Mike Skinner works full-time in recreation in Kent. I think Humphries works full-time, and McLeod and Vernon may have postgraduate courses that they undertake. But there's not the scope for full-time athletes in British endurance, and that will be something with funding that Ian Stewart and his team will be looking to build gradually. Of course, Farah and Thompson have come nicely through that system.
Now then, with less than 4,000 metres to go, Andy Vernon has now taken it on. Andy Vernon, he was the pre-race favourite. He's sat in the back. He's not really made himself the feature of the race as Tom Humphries has. Humphries settling in alongside him with Ryan McLeod in third place. He won the Intercounties in 2009, did Andy Vernon. Came up against Mo Farah last year. But the Aldershot, Farnham and district athletes, St Mary's University, second in the European Cross Country Championships, in the under-23 race. They won the team race, of course, on that. But he's been there or thereabouts for some time. He's competed in those major championships, knows the business of international running, but he knows how tough it's going to be.
Well, I think a word on the other Vernon, Steve Vernon, because he came here, made a late decision to run, having decided he wasn't going to run. It's not looking like it's going to work out for him, because if we take the head-on shot, you can see that there is a Greater Manchester vest there in the top 10, but it is probably nearer 10 than 5. So Steve Vernon having a pretty unhappy time of it. Gambled and lost, I think. It's Gulab in the bright red there. There's Steve Vernon in the Greater Manchester vest there. And that, I think, is... What position is that going to be? Around about 9th or 10th, Stuart? Something like that?
Way down, way down. That's Wilkinson, 4.829. He was up with that leading group, the Yorkshire athlete, wasn't he, for some time. But then once the supple pace was imparted into the race, of course, they...